Hi, I'm Aubrey Ryan, and I'm a graduate of Oregon City High School, class of 2022. And the district for me, I grew up my entire life going all the way from Redland to the high school, all in the Oregon City School District. And I think the biggest takeaway and the biggest impact it had on my life is that some of my closest friends, even today, I met in elementary school, and the way that the district worked just helped us all stay connected and really together. And that's something that I really value and appreciate about my time at Oregon City. Another thing is I had a lot of really great teachers and mentors throughout my time at Oregon City School District. One of which being in the drama department, I decided to put myself out there and go for it, and then I happened to be there all 4 years. Jory Jones is my favorite. I love her so much. She really taught me a lot, as well as some of my AP and honors classes really helped me and prepare for my college career, which is something that was very valuable and I felt very ready to go into. My biggest piece of advice is to really put yourself out there, find the communities that you love. Also participating in spirit weeks and things like that really just help you feel like a part of the community. And those were some of my favorite days and some of my favorite memories from being in Oregon City. Is just getting in there, having friends, building that bigger community, and getting together and celebrating our school and our district. Go Pios!
I'm kidding. So I'm Jonna Hines. I am the curator and historian for the Clackamas County Historical Society. And I assembled a school exhibit along with our team several years ago, actually, and it was actually a really fun exhibit to put together. My son had been in the Oregon City School District from kindergarten through high school, and then also living in the community, I was able to relate what I was finding in the collection to actually his high school. For example, the Hesperian. Just kidding. So for example, the Hesperian, I questioned, these are just things that historians, we dig deeper into why, and I always wondered why the Hesperian was called Hesperian and not something that related to the school. And so in research I found out that it was basically a project that the students would put together, and it was not an annual at all. And it was just different articles about the community and different events, the board, alumni, little stories that they would collect and write, and advertisements for the area. So it was fun. And then later on, it just ended up, they started adding student photos and the seniors' photos first, and then it became an annual with everyone's photos. So the exhibit title is Grade School to Graduation, and it covers 100 years of basically Oregon City education, mostly public education. And it was really interesting, I think, for me, anything that helps you dig deeper into the, crevices of history that you're not just going to get just by reading a newspaper was fascinating. And of course you learn so much doing that. I pulled the exhibit together. There were certain logs that I was able to underline in the teachers' ledgers. So what I noticed was that, of course, that the teachers back in the day, they couldn't, each student had a number. So you can figure out what that student's number is and see what the teacher was saying about them. And one of my favorites, I did underline it in the book, was a little statement where the teacher made a note saying that the girls are doing great, but the boys should be in another classroom. And so, and speaking of what I found also interesting is that the students actually helped run the school. So there was a lot of teamwork that went into education. So for example, in the one-room schoolhouses, the older students would help the teacher educate the younger students. There was also students that were tasked with bringing in water or tasked with bringing in the wood to heat this classroom. So it was interesting to see how that all worked together. I think one of my other favorite parts is that there was a time that people would say, their grandmother, whoever, only had an 8th grade education. That was actually very standard. And I think that's overlooked now because education comes so freely to us. But 8th grade was you were pretty much done at 8th grade. And then if you could go into high school, not every little town had a high school, or every town didn't have a high school. I say little town didn't have a high school, but Estacada actually had one of the first high schools. Colton had a high school. And then, so students would stay at the school for a week. So Colton's dormitories that the students would stay at is still an existing building, still stands. And then here in Oregon City, because we had a high school, students would come here and live either work for room and board. People would offer their houses so the students could go to high school. So yeah, it was really interesting how everyone just worked together. I mean, there was community involvement, community participated, the students helped. There was just a lot that was just really helpful in the community. So if you haven't been to the Clackamas County Historical Society, we have 2 museums, and you should come visit us. We have rotating exhibits. We have a couple of new exhibits coming up next year that are going to be spectacular, unlike anything our museum has ever been able to put together. One of my other little favorite tidbits, and you can probably pop this in there really quick, is that Eastham and Barclay School were built around the same time. And Eastham School had the sidewalks. And so moms really wanted their kids to go to Eastham School because they would get so muddy. Barclay didn't have the sidewalks at all, so they would get so muddy going to Barclay School. So Eastham was actually exploding. And so, yeah, isn't that funny? One of my favorites is understanding that there were over 100 school districts. So each little school was its own district. And then they started consolidating the late 1800s, early 1900s. But if you wonder why Oregon City School District is 62, it's because there were 61 school districts that were designated before Oregon City's school district, even though now we only have just a handful in our community, in our county. So thank you for letting me spend this time with you, and I appreciate being part of this 150th year celebration.
My name is John Phillips. I graduated in 1976 from Oregon City. I got hired by the district in 1978, August 1st. I've been a courier and a custodian for 46 years. I'm in my 47th school year. I went to Park Place and I went to the brand new Holcomb, but it wasn't finished, so I went to Ogden Junior High, which was not finished. Well, it was just finished. It had grass front, and us grade schoolers played in the dirt, got it all messed up. Then we went to Holcomb, and then I went to Ogden Middle School, and then I went to Oregon City High School, which is now Jackson. It's been an incredible time in the district because I was a shy young person, scared to death. I got started as a night sweeper at Moss Junior High, a year and a month, and then I got hired on as a courier / custodian / warehouse, and I realized I wasn't a shy person, and being a courier, you can't be shy, and I've enjoyed the school district because they're my extended family. So I have an interesting story. So my mom, Ruth Phillips, was a bus driver for 27 years. And when I got hired onto the district, I was known as Ruth Phillips' son. And then when she retired, she was John Phillips' mom. She was not happy about that. I have met a whole bunch of good friends in the district. I consider you guys my extended family, and as you can see, I'm not shy anymore because I have 2 grandsons that are 10th graders at Oregon City High School, Lucas and Nathan Renner. They're on the football team, and really proud of them, and just, and I wouldn't trade this experience in a lifetime, because this district is I consider one of the best districts in the state, because I've had comparisons to others, and all I hear is this is the best education district in the state, and I can honestly say that. When I started the district, computers barely started being used. They were still using ditto machines, and then we're using duplicator machines, and then they used to have overhead projectors, opaque projectors, reel-to-reel films. Technology has gotten really good over the years. Well, one funny thing is, on my career route, they've put extra stoplights and turns that are more favorable for my health and well-being, because there's spots in Oregon City that have been rather dangerous over the years. And now that I drive a smaller delivery truck, do not want to have a encounter with somebody bigger than me. Yes, I started for the first expensive computers we had in the district. They were Apple IIe's, and I thought those were just the most incredible things. And now you can see what we have now. I mean, back when I was going to school, Dick Tracy, the movie they thought it was so funny, because who would think we have watch movies or TV on our watches and flying cars, and now you have all that. Well, thank you for letting me participate and celebrate this 150-year celebration. I've realized that after thinking about it, I've been part of the district over 60 years. So I guess I'm over a third of the existence of this district. But the history in this district is incredible. But even though the buildings are old, they're classics. They are still better than any other school district I've ever seen. So thank you very much.
My name is Samantha Goldstein. Formerly, my maiden name is Ferguson. I graduated from Oregon City High School in 2017. Everyone involved in my educational journey gave me the resources to take that fear and make an impact with it and do something good out of it and be courageous, and not only using fear as fuel, but translating that into courage to do hard things and the confidence to carry through with them. They also fostered this sense of pride, to be prideful of where you came from, make changes every year for the better, while also holding on to this sense of, pioneering where we came from and taking that forward into the future. Thinking back about my fun times in student council, that was definitely where I spent a majority of my time, from the late nights of setting up for, we'd call them assembly setup, and rolling thousands and thousands of little tape bubbles to hang up posters and blowing so many balloons to make balloon arches. I just have so many great memories from student council and friendships that will last a lifetime. I'm about to be in a wedding of one of my friends that I met in student council. So just that whole experience was just amazing, and the relationships I got to build with teachers, with staff members, with other students that I probably wouldn't have had the opportunity to connect with otherwise, and the resources of getting involved outside of the school as well, and making those partnerships from student to the high school to outside in our community throughout the school district. Went to Gonzaga, got my bachelor's from there, and that was some of the second greatest memories of my life as well. And so just the fact that I was like, oh my gosh, we get it, Teacher Becker, we know you love the Zags, but then I end up going there and love them so much too. So I think it's just throughout your journey here at Oregon City, you never know what little moment is gonna make a huge impact and potentially change the course of your life. So just taking in all the opportunities to learn and to expand and to open your mind and hear other perspectives, hear other ideas is so important, because it can change the course of your life, hopefully for the better. So I encourage anyone, any potential student, just soak in every moment and, lead your course. Every student's path will be different. But that's, I think, the amazing thing about this school district is every path can be so different, but also so unique and so curated to what you make it. So go Pioneers.
Hi, I'm Marlene Bayless. I've been with Oregon City School District for over 20 years. I started at the high school making French fries. The children really loved those fries back in the day. The last 10 years, I've been here at Gardner Middle School. I love all the staff and all the students. They bring smiles to my face, and I hope I bring a smile to theirs. From Rebecca Beck, our principal, to Russ Copeland, our lead custodian, we have a great team here at Gardner. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sarah Deer. I graduated Oregon City High School in the class of 2004. My grandparents went to Oregon City schools, my parents went to Oregon City schools, obviously I went, and now the next generation in my family is also attending Oregon City schools. So it is something that is very important to us. It instilled many values that we have within our family, within our community, and we all still stick really close to Oregon City because of the way that it brought us all together. I went to a number of Oregon City schools. It was in the early 90s, and so we were having district changes. I went to Eastham Elementary, I went to Gaffney Lane, Mount Pleasant, King School, and then had the opportunity of going to all of the high school campuses, so the Moss campus and the Jackson campus, as well as the new campus at Oregon City. Well, new to me, we were the first graduating class of the new campus. And I have so many memories of my experience. I had the lucky opportunity of going to all those grade schools, and so when we eventually congregated together for middle school, I had so many lost friends and so many new opportunities to get to know them again. 2 weeks ago, we just had our 2004 high school reunion for 20 years, and it was a fantastic experience. We all reminisced about wonderful memories, but we also just remembered how close our community really was and remains to this day. So much love and gratitude for the amazing accomplishments and values instilled from the Oregon City School experience.
Hello, I'm Rocky Smith, Oregon City Commissioner and art teacher at Oregon City High School. One of the reasons I love Oregon City is because of its rich history, both at the city level and also at the school district level, which for many, many years in early history were very much the same. The Oregon City School District has been a part of my life as far back as I can remember. My parents met at Oregon City High School, eventually got married. My mom became a bus driver at the Oregon City School District. Then she moved to the work experience office with my great uncle, Don Anderson. She eventually moved to a job at the district office as secretary. And when the new high school was built, my mom became principal secretary under Carol Kemmis. I graduated from Oregon City High School in 1995, was very much involved in art at the high school, yearbook, student council, and the drama department. I finally graduated Oregon City High School in 1995, and I replaced my high school art teacher, Ed Turpin. Ed Turpin was a great art teacher at Oregon City High School. He loved and cared about the history of this place and the pioneer spirit. When I moved to the new high school, I carried that spirit on. The art teachers of the past at Oregon City had always connected themselves to the history. The picture behind me is a portrait of Pioneer Pete, drawn by Jack Barber. Jack Barber was an art teacher in the 1970s and 80s at Oregon City High School. He was my parents' art teacher. That picture behind me I found in the art room at the old Jackson campus when I started teaching there. Ed Turpin carried on a tradition of painting portraits of Oregon pioneers beyond, and we had gotten to know each other a lot through history in Oregon City, me and Ed Turpin, as he continued to work in the history areas at Clackamas County Fair and other places throughout town. Well, I was asked to paint Pioneer Pete as a student at the Jackson campus, at the stadium, at the press box, the Gail Perkins press box. I painted it as a student in 1995. I painted it again as a teacher in the early 2000s. Well, that press box has changed. The image on there is no longer Pioneer Pete, but Pioneer Pete is still on the field at the Jackson campus stadium. And one of the things that was really interesting to me is when we moved into the brand new Oregon City High School, I was asked to redo the Pioneer Pete. Now, some of you may remember this version of Pioneer Pete from the 1980s. You can see it's not very crisp. It had been copied so many times. So for the new high school, I drew this version. And this version is the original. This is the original Pioneer Pete that you see on our gym floor today at the new high school here. This is drawn in pen and Sharpie. I drew this in 2001. It sits in my desk here at Oregon City High School. But one of the great things is Pioneer Pete, in no matter what form he takes, has always represented Oregon City's history, Oregon City's pioneer spirit, the end of the Oregon Trail, and this great first city of Oregon. So congratulations on 150 years, Oregon City School District.
Hello, my name's Tim Fisher. I'm a lifelong resident of Oregon City, and I'm here at Eastham School this evening, and just taking a look at what I can recall from my years that I spent here in grades kindergarten through 6th. I attended Eastham School beginning about 1956 in kindergarten, and then after finishing here in 6th grade, moved on to Gardner Junior High School, and then the old Oregon City High School, graduating in 1969. I was one of the fortunate ones, I guess, that at the time I attended Eastham School, it was a different world. But in any case, I certainly enjoyed the time that I had at Eastham. I'm sure that if you went back when I was in 2nd or 3rd grade, I wouldn't have said that at the time. But I think I was fortunate to have very good instructors, all of which were female instructors, with the only male instructor being in 6th grade. And that was kind of unusual at that time. But I think of all of the grades that I learned in the most would have been 6th grade. I mean, I was younger, obviously, when you're just beginning and maybe don't pay attention quite as much, but as you get older, you begin to have some of those things that were taught to you earlier finally start to fall into place. So I really enjoyed 6th grade at Eastham, especially because you could participate in sports, which became important to me. And I had a teacher who was the coach of those sports. So it all kind of came together. I recall vividly walking to school every morning. There were no bus routes to bring you to school. I lived probably 10 blocks from the school. We had to cross busy Molalla Avenue to get here. We did have what we called a safety patrol at that time. In 6th grade students, if you were paying attention and behaved well, you got to be a safety patrol member. And they actually flagged the traffic with one parent standing by to cross busy Molalla Avenue. I think that I remember clearly every instructor that I had. I can still remember their names. I can remember their classroom locations. I made lifelong friends at Eastham School people that I still see regularly today. And they also attended Eastham School as long as I did, and also attended Gardner, and also graduated from Old Oregon City High School. And all of us, the ones that I've kept in touch with, had very good careers after graduating from high school, moving on to, in my case, University of Oregon, some to Portland State, some to it was Oregon College of Education in Monmouth, just a whole host of higher education. And at that time, it was almost thought of that you needed to attend a college to have a good career. I don't think that's necessarily true today anymore. Vocational careers are very much in demand, and they will serve you well over your lifetime. So that's how much things have changed since I was here at Eastham and at Oregon City School District. And I was touring the building tonight, looking around, and the school is just very much the way I remember it. The wood trim in the building, the doors, the countertops, the old heaters at the windows, playground area. And I am surprised how big it still looks to me. It's not a little boxy school. The classrooms are small, or not small, and they have a lot of room in them today. So I'm pretty well convinced after my time here this evening that Eastham School still has a long future in front of it, and hopefully will serve the students that are here now very well. I'm looking out the window of the classroom right now at the old football field and baseball field, and I can certainly remember how excited we were at the time we first ran on that field to have a flag football game, and we played all the other schools in Oregon City School District, including the Barclays and the Beaver Creeks and the Park Place and the Jennings Lodge. I'm sure I'm missing some, but we played everyone in flag football at that time. The same with basketball in the gym that looks just today like it did when I was here. Baseball was also played on the same field out across the playground, and it just seems so much bigger then than it does now. But we had a great time. We learned a lot, and we certainly owe thanks to everyone that was involved in the education process. My family, as I said before, I began and went through Eastham School beginning in about 1956 in kindergarten. And prior to that time, my father also attended Eastham School, and that was approximately 1930 when he was in first grade here at Eastham, and he also continued through the entire Oregon City school system, as well as my grandfather, who was in second grade here at Eastham in 1902. So he would have been here in 1901, but it wasn't in the same building as it is today, and as we see it standing today. That building that he attended Eastham in actually caught fire and burned to the ground. And I don't remember the exact years that occurred, but it's unique. My son would have gone to Eastham, however, we did not live in the Eastham attendance district, and he attended Park Place, where my wife went, but it's very much like this building. And so we've got, quite a long lineage in attendance of Oregon City schools, and in particular at Eastham. My two sisters also attended Eastham after I did, and they moved on, attended Ogden Junior High School, which was a new school when they got there. And they both graduated, as I did, from Oregon City High School at the old Oregon City High School, not the one on Beaver Creek Road. We all participated in extracurricular things. We weren't just students, and boy, I certainly wasn't the best student in the world, But I really enjoyed my time in athletics and football and basketball. I didn't ever play baseball once I left Eastham, but we really just had a very enjoyable time, learned a lot from the experience, and in my case, I was fortunate and was able to play an additional year after leaving high school at University of Oregon. So all of those things that I learned going through the process paid dividends somewhere down the road. And I was also very fortunate to have a career that lasted 44 years before I chose to retire in the forest products industry. So it's unusual to hear the lineage, length of times now. People move much more than they used to, but it did happen back in the 50s where people found their home, stayed put, and still live there today. I grew up here. Oregon City consisted of about a population of 6,000 people. It was relatively small, and between Oregon City and Portland, there were very, very few places, and now it's just a continual strip of businesses and fast food places and whatever is between here and Portland. And it was a long ways to Canby and Moab, but you didn't go there very often because it was so far away. So there's been a lot of changes in Oregon City, and many of the people who are in Oregon City today aren't from Oregon City originally. They're from California or Washington or other places in Oregon. And I don't know if that's positive or negative. Things change with time, but it's certainly different than I remember. I can recall driving up Molal Avenue past Eastham School as you were going up the hill. Once you got up to where Danielson's Hilltop Mall is now, there was a bowling alley for years right on the corner where Walgreens is today. That was the end of Oregon City right there. There was nothing beyond that. You went into the country. You were in the dark area out there. So it just gives you an indication of how much Oregon City has grown and changed, and just an entirely different feel than it was back in the 60s even. One other thing I'd say is that don't ever discount the kids you grow up with, especially in grade school, because some of those kids will be your best friends for the rest of your life. And I was lucky that I went through grade school and high school, junior high school, with the same guys that lived right down the street from me. And I still know them today, still see them today. And their families went through Eastham School and Gardner Junior High School and Oregon City High School just like I did. So pay attention and remember those people, because when you get to be much older, you'll really appreciate who they are. Well, being a member of the graduating class of 1969 from Oregon City High School, one of the things that we left behind as our going away gift to the old high school was the painting on the gym wall of Pioneer Pete. And we funded that out of our class, and a local guy named Harold Chief and a painter named Jim Garbison did the painting of that mural on the wall. That became the new standard for what Pioneer Pete was, and has carried to this day, even with the new Pioneer Pete that was added to the football field just last year. So we're in our class still a little bit proud of that, and felt like it was a reasonable contribution for a graduating class.
Good afternoon. My name is John Salisbury. I am a retired teacher from Oregon City School District from 1974 to 2000, followed by being a National Park Ranger. I'm a retired basically history teacher, although I taught at Holcomb from 1974 to 1980, at Logan, our little country school, from 80 to 84, at Moss to 90 till when they changed it from a 3-year junior high as to part of the high school, and then I finished up my last 10 years at Ogden. So I've seen from 4th grade to 9th grade, and every one of those schools had something unique and a lot of fun, a lot of work, but a lot of fun. Teaching those days was a lot of fun. We were encouraged to bring some extra stuff for the kids. When I was in junior high, we called then, I brought in Spelling Bee and National Geography Bee. I took kids to Washington, D.C., 11 years. I took a group to Japan. I've led 8 tours to Japan. I felt my job in the committee was to culturize our students, not only for what they learn in school, but outside of school as well, because that's what I learned where I grew up in Eastern Washington. 2 of my boys, David and Matt, graduated from Oregon City High School. Matt, our youngest one, is now a teacher in Canby, as is his wife. He's been teaching 29 years, and his wife's been teaching a couple of years less, time out for the kids, having children. We have 2 Japanese students from our sister city, which we started the program 50 years ago, part of the culture thing. I've been on that committee all 50 years. They graduated from Oregon City High School, and they're both doing well in Japan. I've seen them. I coached basketball for many years, about 19 years, both elementary and middle school. The Oregon City School District offered me an opportunity to do my thing, so to speak, to love history as I always have, and to expand that history, that knowledge to others, to kids, and get them cranked up, hopefully, in history as well. And I was volunteer of the year a few years ago in Oregon City, and I was history teacher of the year through DAR back in the 90s someplace. So I've got a couple things I've done, and national award winner on USJCs. So, what's important was the fact that the community was better, and that was my goal, was to make the community better to live in, and more fun for the kids, and push the kids to do their best. I mean, that's what this old teacher tried to do. Teach them how to sew. What I'm wearing today, my buckskins, I've done all of it. A former teacher friend of mine, Ed Turpin, who unfortunately is not with us anymore, it was an art teacher, actually, where the Willamette Falls cable is located. He taught art here, and he got me interested in Dutch oven cooking and leather sewing, and I've been following through for 30-some years since then. So we continue the tradition, and I've taught a number of kids how to sew, and we'll continue to do that. I'm a social media person. I'm online with about 700 and some people. And I would say a good 200 of them are former students. So I keep track of them and how they're doing and how their kids are doing and grandkids. And one of my former students asked me if I would stand up for her at her wedding because she didn't have a father and she felt like I was a father figure to her. And to stand up at a wedding, and I've helped others through that kind of stuff. I appreciate the fact when kids come back and say, Mr. S, I didn't like you at the time, but thanks for pushing me, doing what I can do. And that's the ones I encourage people to go back to their old teachers. And they may not have liked them when they were being taught, but suddenly they realize, it's kind of like you realize about your parents. They know a whole lot more than what you thought they did when you were growing up. There's more life out there. There's more life out there. Just enjoy it while you can. We don't know from one day to the next what's going to go on. And me, I'd rather be teaching history or back as a National Park Ranger again. But I had to give up something so I could keep on fighting my cancer, so. And I did. But never stop working. You can't just sit there and, no, that doesn't work for me. Yeah. My children, I will have to, I do have another funny story if you.
Yeah, sure. You got time. Yeah.
My mother and father, I grew up in eastern Washington in the snow country, up above Spokane. And my mother and father would leave the snowstorms in February and come down to Lincoln City to a place called the West Shore Inn every year for a week to get out of the snow and to get into a little bit of the sunshine and the beach and watch the ocean. Well, my mother's last trip down here in the 90s, my brother and his wife brought her down. We knew it was going to be her last trip. We're sitting in Moe's in Lincoln City. And the waitress comes up to me and says, "Are you Mr. Salisbury?" And I said, "Yes." She goes over and tells the woman who's checking people in. That woman comes over to me, throws her arms around me and says, "Mr. S, Mr. S," because that was my nickname. And my mother said, and I quote, "My God, we can't go any place without you knowing somebody." I said, "Mother, you know how many hundreds, maybe thousands of kids I've taught, coached, taken on trips? Yeah, I know a few people around the place. It's hard to go someplace in the metro area without finding somebody that I've had for students. Or I've had their kids, or what have you." So, and that's part of fun. That's part of the fun.
Yeah.
Busy, teacher, community volunteer, ranger. Full of stuff, a lot of fun, and you roll with the punches as you look forward to each day one at a time. If you're interested in some of the classes that I've started, I'm going to start teaching again. You can reach me at JSALS, JSALIS, at teleport, TELEPORT.com. And I use that for my business. I'm going to maybe change, and when I make changes, I'll let whoever contacts me that way lets me know. Look forward to seeing all of you either down at the McLaughlin House or Fort Vancouver. I work at both places, or down at the Museum of the Oregon Territory. You'll find me stumbling around someplace down there trying to help somebody out. Thanks. Appreciate the opportunity to talk to y'all.
Well, my name is Doug Neely. I portrayed Dr. John McLaughlin at the Parkway House on most Friday afternoons and Saturday afternoons. And actually, I want to talk to you a bit about John McLaughlin, and I'll speak as John McLaughlin, in terms of how relevant he was to the schools in Oregon City. Dr. John McLaughlin was the chief actor in the Oregon country and basically in what was called the Columbia District of the Hudson's Bay Company. And that made him the most powerful person at the time because the boundary between the United States and Canada had not been established, and the only entity that we had in terms of trade and so forth was the fur trade. And that made the fur industry the government in the Oregon country at the time, John McLaughlin being the most powerful person for 20 years. But he kind of ran afoul of the Hudson's Bay Company for several reasons. One of which was he was very helpful to the Americans that were settling here. We've got to remember that the Hudson's Bay Company was in fact a British company, not an American company. And for that reason and a couple of other major reasons, he left the Hudson's Bay Company. But he made a land claim here early on in 1829 for the Hudson's Bay Company. He called the land claim Falls City. And in 1844, he changed the boundaries of that land claim, and at that time he called it Oregon City, so he's the actual founder of Oregon City as well. Now, he had made arrangements for his land claim that he made for the Hudson's Bay Company to belong to him, so he had a land claim that extended from just above the Willamette Falls down about halfway towards the Clackamas River and about a mile up here onto the bluff. And in addition, he sold properties, and he was very wealthy because he owned the original mills that were here. He owned a store. A very, very wealthy man. But in part of his land claim, he decided also to loan land. So he loaned, for example, along the river where most of the development was occurring when he was here. He donated 5 parcels to 5 different denominations to build their schools. But he also loaned land to the city of Oregon City. Now, The Oregon Territory had been established in 1846, but this Oregon City is older than that, 2 years older. And so he donated land to Oregon City for parks and for schools. And so there are several school properties in his land claim that belonged to him originally that he donated. His donation land claim went all the way from the river and beyond the old Jackson High campus. And it may well be that he donated that land. You have one of the school properties you have is Barclay, and that definitely was loaned by John McLaughlin to Oregon City. So it wasn't the school district at that time, but the lands were actually established for schools in particular. John McLaughlin's life early on when he came here was very good, but eventually he had his land stripped from him by the federal government. So he actually died as a very, very bitter man. But he made tremendous contributions to Oregon City, helped the settlers settle here, and did a tremendous job as far as Oregon City. We do, since this is the Oregon City School District, we would like any students or any people that are involved in the school district to come down to the McLaughlin House, which is open on most Fridays and Saturdays.
Okay, all right. My name is Judy Hirt, and my maiden name was Unrath when I went through the Oregon City School District. I attended grade school through high school in the Oregon City School District. I attended K through 3rd at Mount Pleasant Grade School, which obviously is no longer there. And then I was excited to hear from my parents that we would be moving down the hill. And the excitement comes from the fact that I would be starting 4th grade at Eastham School. And the exhilarated excitement came from the fact that I knew I was going to a school that had a spring program. And in that program, which was my draw, there was a set where they had a maple pole dance. And I was ecstatic to know that I would be a part of that, because when I was much younger, my cousins went to Eastham, and we'd always go as a family and watch the program. And to think that I would now be a part of that was really exhilarating for a young child. So I excitedly attended my first day at Eastham Grade School by climbing many steps, because Eastham was at the higher end of the hill and we lived at the bottom on Jefferson Street, close to the library. So here I am climbing all these steps in all the glory, was Eastham at the top. I was ecstatic, absolutely ecstatic. I went on to become a 6th grade teacher in the North Clackamas School District for 30 years. And as an educator, before I started, teaching, I had made my own mission statement, and that statement was I was going to plant little seeds in all my students' minds, and I was going to nurture them to the best of my ability as their teacher, and then my wish was that they would go on to have happy and productive lives. Well, I am retired now, and thrilled to say that I have, through my years of teaching and in my retirement, have been very happy to have past students come and see me, make contact, for sharing their lives, which really, as an educator, kind of boosts you, because I will tell you there are times that you look up and go, am I reaching anybody? And then, that seed nurtures and they come full forth. And, it is just an exciting time when you have a student come up. Not all of them are professional, but I've had students who, I'm an obstetrician, okay, or an artist or whatever. Very, very, very fulfilling. Since retirement, I have been part of a philanthropic educational organization and that financially supports young people. You know, after high school, they're venturing to higher education and out of high school. So that gives me another thrill to see growth in another perspective. Well, as a people overall, you know, there are so many. I think in a nutshell, I could say there was more full family groupings who participated, and now, you know, they're spread out more. You know, one, and I think I've noticed that the most. You know, it depends on the time, the place, where. I think there was more family involvement. You know, when I was going to school in the school district, you know, you just went as a family everywhere, you know, and the programs were the big things and the games and all of that, and it was truly remarkable. I started at Eastham School in the 4th grade, my first year in band, and at that time, before all of the budget cuts, you know, you could start in the 4th grade. And that brought me the joy of music. Truly, we were a musical family, but this was something that was beyond. And I remember that my father came in I was very excited about this when I heard the little presentation by Irv Lesser, who was in the district for many years. And so I went home, and my dad, bless his heart, bought me a brand new clarinet. And so I started music, more formal music, in the 4th grade, and I followed, and Irv Lesser followed me all the way through, except when I went to Thora B, you know, I had a different instructor, but then I went back to, you know, went into high school, and there he was. So I was one of his little ones, and he followed me all the way through high school, and it was the joy of being able to be a part of the marching band, the symphonic band, the jazz band. You know, there was a real camaraderie there. And I guess my indirect point was, parents were there. All the parents were there to see the programs in all their glory. And I will tell you, in 4th grade, it wasn't always pretty. Squeaks and all. As a family, well, see, at this, you know, sometimes families don't sit down as a family and have dinner. And I don't want to date myself, but we did that. And that's when you had discussions and things. So to answer your question more directly, I would probably say, at least in the home, less tech night. You know, have even if it's only like 2 days of the busy week, because, you know, there's practices and all of this, and two parents work because they have to. So looking at it realistically, at least try to incorporate a time for family time, and share things that have been going on. Do things with your kids. You know, I'd have parents who say, I'm just not reaching my children, and I'm saying, are you spending time with them? You know, are you truly spending quality time? Or I can't get my child to read, you know, and I said, do you read? And, well, yeah. And I said, pick a time, half an hour, read together. You read your story, you read mine, we can talk about it. You know, and eventually different subjects come up, and there you go, you know. You didn't ask this, but one of the big things that I had an open school or open door policy with my students. I loved what I did. I loved kids, and my students would come back and want to just talk. You know, they would come back and talk. Maybe they wanted a hug, maybe they wanted some advice, but they just wanted me to listen. I didn't say a whole lot. You know, I don't, you know, have counseling credentials. Although, with all the psychology courses that I've taken, because I was going to be a psychologist, and went into teaching, so it brought a lot. So, what I've, you know, and I think part of it, you know, in all the busyness, how many times a day do you tell your child, I love you, and give them a hug? And so when I'd have parents who'd come in and, you know, when the problems began, and, you know, I would say, have you told your child you love them? You know, because that does a lot. We all want to be loved. And they would go, well, my child, they know I love them. And I said, well, that may very well be by your actions, but they have to hear it too. They have to put words to actions.